Hi everybody, I hope all is going well, and I hope that you're sticking through, you're reading Parable of the Sower, and you're preparing to write this last paper. We're almost there. We're in week 14. We have 17 weeks left. So if you need any help at all, if you have any questions about the assignments, about Parable of the Sower, please don't hesitate to contact me. Let's take a look at 14. So this week I have some discussion questions for you regarding pages 86 through 166. Your next reading assignment is to read pages 167 through 244. And then these are your credit questions. Next week you will be writing your outline for paper, and you can just take a look at the timeline here. So then in week 16 you have the rough draft. Week 17 is our last week. We will not have any courses during the final exam week, which is the following week. So this is it. Week 17, your final paper is due. Let's scroll back up. I wanted to show you the week before what I did, and I will be doing this after I create this video. So in the syllabus, I'm adding the videos and the lesson and discussion questions so it's easy for you to access. I'm also adding these to the homepage in Laulima, so if you go to Laulima, that's the first thing you're going to see. So you can find these also in our course Google Shared Drive. So there are 3 separate places where you can find this information. I'm going to jump over to week 14 discussion and lessons in our Shared Drive. So I have a little bit of information about some of the themes in this book, Parable of the Sower. This is just a little bit of information, and there are, of course, other themes that are discussion worthy, some of which I will talk about in upcoming weeks. So one of the major themes to think about, and of course the entire foundation of Lauren's religion she's creating, Earthseed, is this idea about change. So Lauren rejects traditional religion based on her experience in this dystopian world she's living in. She doesn't see any relevance in a belief system focused on a Christian God. So instead she forms her own religion based on observation and the key idea that everything changes. So change, this idea of change being constant in life, is foundational to Earthseed. So you want to think about that as you continue reading this book. So people can either accept change and work with it to better themselves in their community, or they can resist it, they can fight it, just doing the same thing they've always done, hoping for a better future. But as you read and continue to read this book, you'll realize that that is the antithesis, according to Lauren, of progress and of survival. So for Lauren, again, change is God. God shapes humans, and in turn, humans shape God. So the idea of God is a dynamic process. It's not static. It's transcendental. It's not a transcendental lawgiver or judge, is what I meant to say. So change is just that. It's just change. And it's very different from the idea of a Christian God passing judgment on people based on their individual behaviors. And this also applies to other religions as well. So change is an irresistible force. Humans can harness it to promote spiritual evolution for humans and humanity. And according to Lauren and her idea of Earthseed, each human life is a seed that can sprout into something valuable and productive if and only if it can adapt to changing realities. Fighting or resisting change ends up in, as you read in, or you read in this set of pages, 85 to 166, the end of Lauren's walled community, right? It's just burned down and almost everyone in that community dies. And mostly people in that community had been resistant to change. and they thought that it could just continue on the way they had been year after year and survive. So by yielding to change, people can also shape change constructively to benefit them and their communities. The consequences of doing this result in death and chaos, again, as we see in Lauren's community. So the ultimate expression of Earthseed, its destiny, you're going to read, or you did read, is to take root among the stars, which is to spread human life to other planets and galaxies. So you want to really think about that idea in detail as you're reading. So Lauren wants to just ditch Earth, and I know I talked about this a little bit last week too, and start over in another on another planet or even another universe. Another idea discussed in these pages and throughout the book is freedom. So Lauren and then the group of people she meets along her way as they travel north, they're traveling towards freedom. They are trying to escape the prison of a walled community. And of course that walled community did come down. But Lauren always felt, even before the destruction of the walled community, that there was no hope for a full, productive, and free life. So most of the people Lauren meets along the way as she's heading north are fleeing or running from some kind of slavery or exploitation. So think about the types of slavery again and exploitation that are discussed in this book. So we can think about Zara Moss, and she was actually bought by her former husband. Her mother sold her. Harry turned down the chance to go to the company town, Olivar, in which residents actually give up their rights and their freedom to buy security. So you can think about that idea in more detail. The company town, that is, because that's discussed quite a bit, or at least there are allusions to the company town in the set of pages that you're reading. I'm going to skip Jill and Ali. They're not in this section that we're reading. So we have Travis and Natividad, who are escaping menial service from the wealthy couple that they worked for, and of course the man that they were working for was trying to seduce, or I don't know if that's even the right word, but he really wanted to have sex with Natividad, so they ended up having to leave with their young child. And there are other examples that you're going to read about with the different people who joined this group. So again, it's really important to think about this idea of freedom, how it's obtained, and how people lose it. And especially as you're introduced to different characters, think about the different types of exploitation and slavery that they're escaping. So the novel really has two halves. The first half is set in Robledo, the community Lauren grew up in, that later breaks down and is actually burned down, and most of the community members end up dying. So society is split into several groups. In this dystopian setting, we have rich and walled estates with lavish security systems. Middle class, much of the middle class are threatened. They have walled communities, but they can't afford those expensive security systems that places like Olivar have. So they have walled communities to try to have some kind of security, but we know that that security doesn't last. Jobs are scarce. No one has any prospects for a future, for getting a job that actually pays money. Inflation has eroded the value of money. Things like water costs more than food. So in Lauren's neighborhood, people are trying to grow much of their own food. For meat, they eat rabbits raised by the Moss family. We talked about acorns last week. at the age of 15, all of the kids in the community are trained in using guns and maintaining guns, because the police force is corrupt and they only really have themselves to rely on for protection. And outside the unwalled areas, the rule of law really has collapsed. There are a lot of people who are addicted to drugs, and then in particular, the group of people who burned down Lawrence community are addicted to a certain type of drug that I mentioned last week that makes people want to set fires. So then the second part of the novel presents a gradually emerging contrast between the lawlessness and the brutality of life among the traveling bands of refugees, so all the people who are fleeing the cities and trying to go north in hopes of finding a better future and finding jobs that pay. And then the sense of community and mutual responsibility that eventually characterizes the group that Lauren forms as she's traveling north. So she's going to pick up more and more people to join her community or her group with the hopes of finding a place to settle down and actually have a new community. So her quest is to recreate an ideal community, and at first she really doesn't trust anybody, but as she progresses on her journey and travels north, she cannot, even though she's leery and she doesn't trust people, she's still compassionate. And there are many examples of how Lauren is compassionate. So look out for those. Think about the ways she shows her compassion, the people she brings into her group. And you're going to end up seeing that Lauren's new group or family, they've really become a family, is this mixed group of multiracial, multi-generational people, and they survive by actually taking care of each other and trusting each other in hopes of creating a safe and hopeful community where people will actually have a promising future. So I jumped questions for this week. Some of the questions to think about are the stakes of survival growing higher for Lauren's community. How could her father's relationship with the Baptist religion change based on the decisions to make in the novel? There's an interesting discussion that Lauren's dad has with his wife Corey about possibly killing burglars. So think about that. Do you feel it's right to protect your own or your family's? Think about Lauren's hyperempathy. It's made her wiser and more insightful, but also her recurring dream can be connected to her transition, or can it be connected from her transition from one faith to another? How can the struggle to escape be related to not only faith, but to the general idea of survival overall? You can also think about, and I talked about this again, different types of slavery. What are those types of slavery? How are they related specifically to financial stability and race? And how could the new president-elect set back the country? And then for the last question, we've learned that Lauren can't confide in her closest friends with her views and her feelings. How can Lauren's relationship with her father and the community change with the possibility of people discovering her hyperempathy and Earthseed? And then I have a few passages marked that I highlighted. Well, I have several, but I just chose a few. But I wanted you to think about on page 105, illiteracy, and actually how Keith, Lauren's brother, is, for a short time anyway, able to survive outside of the community because specifically he can read and write. And then think about character and what his character might add to this story. On page 118, There are more references to climate change due to global warming, so you can look out for on page 119. And this goes through page 119 to about, I think, page 124. The rest of this references to the company. If you're not familiar with the company story, kind of maybe think about plantations here in Hawaii. Think about people working and their wages really only paid for room and board, and people would actually buy their food and necessities from the store that they worked for, and they were all in debt to that company store, so they were enslaved by the system where they could, no matter how hard they worked, they could never get out of debt. So there are references to that. Think about that as you read. And then on page 129, there's so much thunder going on right now outside, it's distracting me. Again, this idea of cheap labor in return for room and board. And this also is where Lauren's dad goes in. And throughout the rest of these assigned pages, it's pretty grim. There's a reference on page 134 where Lauren, she's, after her dad disappears and everyone pretty much knows he's gone, he's not coming back, she feels like she needs to carry on and be there for the community. So she preaches a sermon from Luke chapter 18, verses 1 through 8, the parable of the importance of the widow. So if you're unfamiliar with this, look it up, think about how it relates to the story. And then one of the sings, we shall not be moved. Think about that particular gospel and how and why maybe it's relevant to this part of the book. And then at the very end of this section, we find out that pretty much the entire community is lost. Lauren gets away. She marries Zara. Zara said she saw Corey and Lauren's brothers killed. So yeah, this is these are some heavy pages to read, and I hope what I've talked about today helps as you can reading the book. And again, questions, you just want to talk about what you're reading, I'm happy to help. I'm happy to chat. Take care.